Everybody, Jerome Wright is here, and once again we're joining me on my Jerome Wright YouTube channel here on YouTube. In this video, I'm going to offer us a more logical explanation for how our world was created, and not just our world, but other worlds here in our solar system, and the way this takes out throughout the universe. This Big Bang Theory just doesn't wash with me, and as when I get done with this video, I think that you will pretty much agree with me, okay? And this is a very logical approach that I am taking, and it's just, it's just common sense. However, through I don't just arrive at making these videos. I encounter a paranormal experience and encounter where when I'm creating these videos, it's like a couple days in advance that I am thinking about what is happening in space, what is going on, and I arrive at a logical conclusion in a way that I can bring you a video that even when I'm done with the video, it has you saying, well, damn, well, that makes sense. I mean, I have to agree with this guy. You don't need a scientific analogy, in other words, or approval, to actually agree with me. I mean, it's just common sense reasoning that you say, you know what, this guy is right about this. You know what I mean? Why didn't I think about this? Or why didn't science come up with this? And these are the type of videos that I try to put together for you. So where we can go around, I'll go through science. We don't need science to come to a reasonable, logical conclusion where, there's no refuting it. All right? This is a volcano, an erupting volcano. Through volcanism, rocks are created on our planet. And what happens is at the core of this Earth center, you have this volcanic activity where this lava flow makes its way to the top in some locations, and what ends up happening is that rocks are being formed. All right? It's my position that this lava flow, this activity, it occurs, it takes place, it transpires from the center of the Earth, the core. Which brings me to the center of our Earth being like that of a sun. It's a nucleus. It's the center of this activity, this volcanic activity. Now, we all know that rocks are created from this volcanic activity. They call it creating new land masses. It's a good thing for the planet because new lands are being formed and the earth is stretching and expanding according to science. They make it sound so grand and unique. But yet all of this is taking place where it is bubbling up into an area, into an inhabitants of where mankind is. What is so unique and fabulous about that? You're in harm's way of this activity and this chemistry. I also like to think that this volcanic activity is coming through the Earth's core in places that where this brings, when it erupts, it brings things and elements up to the surface that mankind has never been exposed to. There's chemistries, there's emissions, harmful gases, harmful elements that we have never been exposed to, and this emitted matter is now being sent into the atmosphere and into the area and the environment that we live in. What happens when this volcanic activity hits a pocket of something that is poisonous to all mankind's being, that once you inhale it, you die? This is a burn-off. This is another thing that could lead to global extinction of mankind. At any given time, another calamity that could happen that could cause for global extinction. All it would take is for this volcanic matter, this lava flow coming from the Earth center core, to hit a pocket in the planet of some type of element, matter that is in the planet that would be poisonous to mankind instantly once upon breathe, and we're done. Another way that extinction could happen. It could have happened with the dinosaurs, and it could happen with us at any given time. All it would take is for one of these volcanoes that are globally to erupt, and And carrying in through its eruption is this noxious gas matter. It happens all the time. It happens with chemical spills, nuclear plants. It happens with trains that derail, that carry harmful byproducts in them. It's the same exact thing, people. If one of these volcanoes erupted and put this emitted matter into our air, boof, we're gone. There is nothing that's good about this. This is horrible. But anyway, I just wanted to take you there for a minute. Just wanted to take you there while I was there, because I'm having one of those times. I'm stating, people, that our planet, our worlds, weren't created through this Big Bang theory. It's my position that our world was created by the very chemistry that is called for these rocks to be formed, and it's through a volcanic activity. Where is volcanic activity happening in space, people? This is a image of the sun here. Here's the planets. There's our volcano right there. It's my position that the rocks in our asteroid belt, the rocks that are here, these planets, are byproducts of the sun. It's my position that through an extraordinary sequence of events, and once upon a time, that called for the creation of these planets, solar flares kicked off of the sun, detached, spiraled into balls, baby suns. Those baby suns, at those moments, became planets, and that is what is in each one of these cores of the planet. And that, people, makes more sense than anything you will ever hear. Again, let me run you through this. Here's the sun. Imagine an eruption, a volcanic eruption within the sun. Spits out a piece of itself, a big piece of itself, with such fury that it comes out, detaches away from the sun. We call them solar flares, but in this case it becomes a fireball. You're talking about molten lava, rock, whatever, comes out, floosh, spins over. Everything that goes into that leaves the body of another body, it becomes a circular object. So it coils over in on itself, and it becomes a ball of fire. That ball of fire, reeling around, collects upon other elements. And people, what I'm telling you is what done happen is that these balls of fire, which is in our planet, were not enough to keep burning in the sense that our sun is, and they glow bright red. But no, they glowed just enough, or they were just hot enough to ultimately become the center cores of these planets. The rest of the elements in the chemistry that you see on top of these fireballs, which are parts of the sun, are collected matter from off space. Matter, space dust that are collected over these, almost like you would have like your dryer in your home. The way you put a lint ball collector or a ball collector in there, when there is heat, what happens is that it collects upon. It creates like a static energy, which causes a collection, like a gravity pull, of all of this other matter, emitted matter that's in the space, and it creates a ball around it. It collects upon on it. It's my position that each one of these planets has a fireball which came from the sun inside of it. There is a baby sun in these planets, and the reason for being is that this emission from off the sun, that flare, that solar flare, which became so intense, so furious that when it came out, bang, it got caught into a orbit of the sun, and eventually it became a body, a celestial body of the sun, which was created by the sun. There is no other way, people, to describe a solar system except for that. Now, through my experience and encounter, because I said to myself, I wanted to know how planets came to be, and that came. So next, people, I'm going to have to find myself inside of the sun, and I will be able to describe how the sun was created, because I took myself into the core of Earth. I took myself into the core of these planets and experienced how the center cores of these planets were equal to that of the sun, and why the same activity that is occurring in our world is happening with the sun. And then I took the scenario and just gave you this wonderful scenario of how planets were created. The planets are part of the sun, not i.e. the outer crusted areas. I'm talking about the center core of the sun, of these planets, which are suns, came from the suns due to solar flare activity, due to volcanism from the sun. A volcanic eruption which calls for the sun to spit a part of itself out into space, far enough away from itself to where it got captured in a gravitational ring, and eventually over a course of time it became covered, embodied in alien byproducts from space, because this separation was not is not as intense as it was with this sun, and therefore space was allowed to collect upon it, and henceforth we have these planets. What do we have here? Do we have anything else? Can I go to, let me see if I can go to images. Okay. Let's go to this one here. Go larger. Oh, come on. What is this? Go back. Now this is where everything goes awry. Alright. Okay, let's go up. Okay, we're there. Alright. Again, people. There's our sun. There's the sun's solar system. These rings of containment that I call them emission rings from off the sun. Okay, they're in a gravitational, these planets are in a gravitational pull with the sun. What better way to describe how each one of these objects contain a fireball inside than just what I've just described? A solar flare whipped out, created a creation. All of these planets are byproduct of the sun. A sun is inside of each one of these planets. There's no other way to describe it. How about these little rocks right here? These asteroids and the asteroid belt. Well, besides planets that may have either exploded or erupted and caused for this, it's the same exact thing, people. How these asteroids, how these rocks are being created in space. If you ever see a welder, and when welding is taking place, the high intensity heat, when a welder is welding, or when you take a blowtorch, a welder's torch, and you cut metal, what happens is when you start taking that cut and you making that cut, what happens is all of the pieces that arc off of that initial cut, when you're cutting that metal, or when you're separating where an intense heat is happening, these objects start popping away. And when they go off, they're balls of fire. But as they start to cool, they turn back to a solidified object. And then that's how you come up with these other rocks. Just like a rock that if you were to take and heat it to the point, I have a rock here. It's like one of these rocks. If this rock was to ever become heated to a point to where it would melt or disintegrate, and it goes into a point where it starts to separate or disintegrate, if it goes out into space or go anywhere, what had happened is that once it starts cooling, it is solidified, it resolidifies again. Maybe not in the same shape that it is in, however, but it will go back to a solidified state once it cools. And this is what is happening. These are all byproducts of the sun. It's my position that each galaxy, where there are suns, the suns are the cause for the creation of the planets. These rocks eventually what happened, become cores, center cores of these worlds, of these planets, because they are a byproduct of the sun. You have sons of the sun. These are all sons and daughters of the sun, these planets. The creations, eggs. I like to call them eggs. That's what I call them, eggs, because each egg has life forms on them, or life forms, a potential for life form to be spawned on them. So you got it, people? So, just as at the center of our planet, there is volcanic activity at the core of the center of our planet, and it causes volcanism. That volcanism causes lava flow that causes the lava flow, which actually leaks up to the surface, and when it comes to the surface, it spits out volcanic matter from the center core of the earth. Let's look at this as the center core of the earth. I know this is the sun. And from that center core is this emitted matter, which calls for rocks to be created. People, this is identical to the center core of our planet and what is happening here in our world. It's identical. Rocks here are planets. There are rocks, all rocks, with a center core that is equal to the sun. Everything is being mimicked. Now check this out. The greater part of our solar system, the central part of our solar system, which everything is evolving around here, is that of the sun. The same thing with our world. If you take and cover this up in a bubble, the sun would be the nucleus of these planets. If there was in a ball, it's the same exact thing. It's going on in our world. In our world, the core is the nucleus of our planet. It's emitted matter which comes out, creates other rocks. This is what is happening with the sun. We're in the solar system with the sun. It's emitted matter. This is the nucleus. It's emitted matter are creating the other rocks and life forms, the other rocks and objects which are in its solar system. There is no other analogy, reasonable analogy, to suggest why these planets are at the center of their core, identical to the sun, which is at the center of the core of the solar system. There's no other way to arrive at that. The scenario which is happening in our solar system is identical to what is happening in our planet. Volcanic activity is causing for more rocks to be created. Identical scenario. I'll put a little bit more in writing, and I'm going to end this video there. I'm probably going over a little bit more than what I want to. We're only at 15 minutes. I can leave it there. It's my position that these planets are covered over with material which it collected upon, but at the center of each one of these planets is a sun. Everybody will agree with that. It's my position that at one point or another, the way that these suns got into these planets, it occurred through solar activity, solar flares, which is equivalent to volcanism, which happens in our world. So through the sun's volcanic activity, volcanism, solar flares were shot out, and it was in such a great mass that it calls for that activity to create center cores, a ball, a nucleus in a ring, which eventually collected upon in space, which we now call planets. I'm going to end my video there. Thank you.